What is up, guys? As you can see, we are already in the close-up mode here for this video because this is going to be a real quick one today. I have a plane to catch. By the time you're watching this, I will be 30,000 feet in the air above the skies over Pennsylvania or something like that because I'm going to Midwest Vapor Expo. So that's why this is going to be a very quick video today. So today we're going to be using some of these fused Claptons from our friends over at Coil. These are made with 26 and 38 gauge nichrome 80. So pre-made coils today. I know you guys hate it when I do pre-made videos, but I'm kind of going for more or less a wicking tutorial for the AzeRoth RTA. I wanted to show you guys exactly how I wick this thing. So let's go ahead and get a little bit closer here and we'll start installing these things. So Coil has made these really nice looking fused Claptons, which we're going to be using today. So all you want to do for this build here is basically just kind of check the measurements here on your deck and kind of gauge where you want your coils to sit. So usually what I like to do is kind of cut it fairly close to the bottom of the deck because I know for a fact that these coils are going to stretch out a little bit. So basically just kind of gauge where you need to trim these ones here. You can actually just kind of do yourself a favor by kind of sticking them in and seeing how far down they actually sit. So that way you can kind of gauge how much slack you have to allow for here. So basically just going to cut off about that much there. So we're going to just trim up all of these leads real quick. What I would do personally is start off by just seating one of the coils real quick. Make sure it's all the way in the bottom, obviously. Make sure all your screws are as loose as they can be. And just kind of check your depth there real quick. And if you have to go a little bit more, then you can lop off a little bit more, but you don't want to just cut it too short. That way you'd have to start over and get a new coil, so that would suck. Anyways, yeah, we were almost there with this one here. Pretty darn close. Maybe a tiny bit more on this one. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of match up everything to this particular coil because I want everything nice and even. One way you can do this that helps is by putting them on your jig real quick. You can kind of put them all on the jig. Oops, oops, oops. Slippery little guys. And then just lop them all at once. So just kind of match them up like that. Boom. Boom. Oop, careful. And our last one, like that. Okay, so now all our coils are pretty much the same length. All our legs are the same length here, so let's take them once again off of the jig here, like that. And we're going to place each coil in and tighten everything down. Alright, so once you have all the coils in place, now we're just going to straighten them up a little bit, making sure everything is seated right. So just kind of putting the jig back through and just kind of organizing those coils so they're in the right spot. You kind of want these aligned similar to like how the deck is shaped here, like a triangle kind of sort of thing. So just kind of get these all in line and making sure everything's good to go, which we're looking pretty good here. So I think maybe just a final little adjustment, making sure everything's tight before we start putting any heat to these coils. Alright, so I've got my mod turned on now. I'm set at 58 watts. We're going to tune these coils up at 58 watts. And let's get our ceramic tweezers out and start firing these guys here. So just slow pulses at first. You want to just make sure everything's kind of coloring up nice. Be careful, make sure nothing's touching the other posts or anything like that. You really don't want any shorts on this one here. Well, I mean, you don't ever want shorts, but I guess that remains true for this one here. These are going to color up real quick too, especially since we're firing them so high. I mean, you could start off at 30 watts if you want to, but for the resistance that these ones are, we're going to end up probably somewhere in the area of about 100 watts, which is pretty impressive for a tank. So you can see all that color coming through now. So far so good with these guys. Let's just real quick double check our screws. Sometimes they can be a little bit loose or something like that. That'll definitely affect their performance. Probably my least favorite thing about this particular device is those screws in there, those little Allen headed screws. Those things are pretty bad, if I do say so. I don't know, I wish they would have done something like a flat head or something like that. Maybe that would have changed it a little bit, but that's as tight as it can get right now before I feel like they're going to strip out on me. These coils generate a ton of heat, so you're probably going to have to go pretty slow with this one here, because I can already feel the mod itself getting a little bit warm. Let's do the normal thing, brush them a couple of times. Yeah, see, now they're firing up nice. There we go. One more time here. Yeah, they're looking pretty good to me. I think these guys are ready to go. So now we get to the fun part, which is wicking. All right, guys, so I have my Native Wicks cotton here as usual. So let's just go ahead and get ourselves out a little strip here. If I can get the bag open. There we go. All right, so let's see. Get our scissors out real quick. And we're going to cut about, 1.5 inch strips here. So probably only going to need one, maybe two. Don't know. We'll find out. So just rip off about what you feel like you're going to need. It shouldn't be too much. You just want to roll it real tight and stick it through the coil like you normally do anything else. I've seen some people wick this thing all in one continuous strand. That's not quite enough there, so start over again here. I've seen people do these in one continuous strand, but really feel like my wicking method is working pretty good for me, so I'm just going to stick with what I know. So get your coil nice and tight in there, your cotton nice and tight, and back it off just ever so slightly. You want to leave a little bit of room for the next one. So this one, maybe a little bit less than that. And it's going to be tight. At first, it's going to be pretty tightly packed in those little juice channels, but first time I did this, it worked no problem for me, so I was pretty happy with it. And you might need to get your tweezers out in this case because it is going to kind of get in its own way here, but it shouldn't be too difficult to decipher which strand is which here. Nice and tight, back it off a little bit, just like that. Moving out of the way again. I'm going to need one more little tiny strip here. You really don't need a whole heck of a lot of cotton with this one here because we're going to end up trimming these guys up a lot anyways. So, with that in mind, just only cutting about maybe 1.5 inch strips. Normally I do about, 2.5 inches just to get the right amount of tension in there. I end up wasting a bunch of cotton anyways, but hey, that's just me. It's just cotton. Not really worried about it. I can waste all I want, not really feel bad. And just kind of pull it through. This one might be a little bit too big. The more tightly packed the actual tip is, the easier that it is to get that stuff through there. So yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Feels good inside the coils. Now comes the fun part, which is raking all this stuff out. So basically what you want to do is just kind of lay it down over the side here, just kind of judge where it's going to fall down to. And then you want to just give it a little haircut, about like that. I mean, you might have to go through several steps with these here because you can never do it. I could never get it first try. I mean, usually I'll go through a few different stages before I get it right. But again, just like with anything, cut just a little bit off, you know, test it out. If you don't have enough cut off, then do it again. So now we're just going to rake everything out. And you're probably going to have to thin out these tails a lot because there's a very small juice channel in there. So rake them out quite a bit if you can. And you kind of want to almost like merge them together. So just do this almost as one unit here, like that. There we go. Just get those two together because they're going to share one wicking hole here. Just kind of rake them out. You like making two into one, so just kind of rake them together. That way it'll be easier to get it down in that juice channel. We're looking pretty good here. I think we're ready to give this thing a shot. So last thing before I do that is just give it another little snip here. Like that. Oops. There we go. All right, so next step is a little bit trickier. You have to get both of these little wick tails down into the same holes here, so you might have to end up getting your smaller tweezers or something like that out. Sometimes a screwdriver, a flathead will work just fine, but you know, it's going to take a little bit of finesse to get these in here. So basically, rule of thumb with any RTA build is make sure those juice channels are covered by the cotton, but not completely blocked. That is the key, because you want juice to still get up inside the actual chamber part of it, but you don't want it so much that it floods and comes out the air holes. And I mean, I remember the first couple of times I built an RTA, it was just a royal pain in the ass. I could not figure out wicking. I mean, we're talking back in the day of the, you know, old K-Funds, and I had a Russian 91%. Wow, that seems like forever ago nowadays, but yeah, back in those days I had no idea. I feel like one of the most difficult ones for me was the Fogger V4. I don't know, for some reason I could never get that thing to wick correctly. I don't know. Anyone else out there have a Fogger V4 or even the previous Fogger versions? I don't know. I feel like they were all pretty similar. I think I also had a Fogger V2, but yeah, we're looking pretty good here. I think we're all set for some juice. So yeah, just make sure everything's nicely tucked in there. So let's go ahead and find us some juice. So today I'm going to be using some of this Hundy's e-liquid, the Hundy's 50 spot. This one, to me, tastes like Sour Patch Kids or any sort of kind of sour candy. Really, really good stuff. So just going to drench these coils here real quick. Got to be careful not to get it down the air hole or anything like that. So just kind of touch on them just ever so slightly. Get these things good and saturated. All right, so our final resistance came out to 0.13 ohms. I am currently sitting at 80 watts of power. Let's go ahead and see how these things vape. Nice little sizzle. Some decent vapor production. I think we'll bump it up to about 100 watts. There we go. Just make sure these are good and saturated once again. Let's test them out at 100 watts. That's more what I was expecting. There we go. All right, so real quick, let's have a vape on this thing. Oh yeah, the flavor is very, very good. Love me some Fuse Claptons. This AzeRoth RTA is a lot of fun to build, and definitely going to be using it this weekend at Midwest Vapor Expo. Hope to see some of you guys there. So anyways, guys, that about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget to leave me some comments in the box below of what you thought of the AzeRoth RTA Build / Wick, and suggest me a future episode of Fresh Build Friday as well. Also, check out the advocacy and my social media links in the box below. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and as always, vape on!